April 16th, 1945, off the coast of Okinawa. The Pacific is deceptively calm. Gentle waves shimmer beneath the gray morning haze as the USS Laffey, DD-724, cuts through the water at her radar picket station. She's a 2,200-ton Sumner class destroyer, small, fast, and exposed, guarding the northern approach to the Allied invasion fleet. On her bridge stands Lieutenant Commander Frederick Julian Beckton, 34 years old, calm but sharp-eyed, his hands clasped behind his back as he scans the horizon. His ship and his men have already survived Normandy and Cherbourg. But what's coming today will make every previous battle look like a drill. At 8:27 a.m., a voice crackles over the radio from the Combat Information Center. Enemy aircraft approaching, multiple bogies inbound from the north. The crew tenses. Gun crews race to their stations. The 5-inch guns are loaded. The Beauforts and Oerlikons start to hum. The men of the Laffey have heard the stories about the Kamikazes, the Divine Wind pilots who see death not as defeat, but as duty. Still, no one can truly prepare for what's about to descend upon them. Overhead, faint black dots begin to emerge from the sky. Japanese A6M Zeros and D3A Vals, their engines whining as they dive from the sun, dozens of them, each carrying a 500-pound bomb. "Open fire!" Beckton shouts. The Laffey roars to life. Tracers streak across the sky like orange needles. The ship's deck rattles under the thunder of anti-aircraft guns. Shell casings clatter and roll toward the scuppers as sailors shout over the deafening noise. At 8:30 a.m., the first Kamikaze comes screaming in low over the water, just meters above the waves. The pilot's white headband is visible even from the deck. He's aiming for the bridge. The forward 40mm gunners, led by Chief Gunner's mate Gerald Fox, track him with mechanical precision. Steady, steady, fire! A burst of flak tears into the plane's wing, but it's too late. The Zero slams into the Laffey's fantail, its bomb detonating near the aft gun mount. The explosion hurls men to the deck. Flames leap skyward. Smoke engulfs the stern. "Damage control, aft section," someone yells. Yet even through the chaos, the ship keeps firing. Every gun on the Laffey, from the 5-inch mounts to the smallest 20mm cannon, spits defiance into the sky. But the Japanese aren't done, not even close. A second wave appears. 10 more aircraft, diving almost simultaneously. One strikes. Near the smokestack, another clips the deck, tearing off railings and setting fire to ammunition lockers. The sea boils with burning fuel. Beckton, still on the bridge, refuses to abandon his post. He orders the helm to maintain course. The destroyer must stay mobile, or she'll be an easy target. His face is blackened with soot. His voice is steady. "We're staying afloat. Keep firing." And somehow, the men obey. Through smoke, shrapnel, and fire, they reload and fire again. The Laffey, already wounded, bleeding oil into the Pacific, begins to earn her name, the ship that would not die. But the attack has only just begun. 22 Japanese aircraft are converging on a single destroyer, and the ocean around Okinawa is about to become hell itself. It's 8:45 a.m. off the coast of Okinawa. The USS Laffey is burning from stern to bow, yet somehow still alive. Smoke billows into the sky in thick, black columns visible for miles. Below deck, damage control teams scramble through corridors filled with steam and fire. Sailors with scorched faces drag hoses through knee-deep water, spraying the flames that threaten to reach the ship's ammunition stores. Above them, the battle rages on. From the east, another Kamikaze dives straight for the ship's bridge. The gunners have seconds to react. Seaman First Class Joseph George, barely 20 years old, swings his 20mm cannon upward and squeezes the trigger until the barrels glow red. The plane erupts in a fireball, but its momentum carries the burning wreckage straight into the aft gun mount, shredding the platform and sending men flying into the sea. Another Zero follows, this one carrying a 250-kilo bomb. It plunges directly into the ship's mast, exploding midair and raining molten debris across the deck. The blast knocks Lieutenant Commander Beckton to his knees, his uniform torn and face bleeding. A fragment slices through the railing inches from his head. Still, he rises. "We're not going down. Keep those guns hot." The order echoes across the intercom. On the forward deck, Chief Torpedoman's mate William Beeson and his crew manually traverse the 5-inch Mount 51, aiming through the smoke. When they finally spot a D3A Val diving from the clouds, Beeson times the burst perfectly. 3 salvos, rapid succession. The Japanese bomber disintegrates mid-dive, its wings shearing off before splashing into the sea just 50 yards off the bow. But the sky doesn't clear. It darkens. By now, the Japanese have committed 22 planes to destroy one ship. To them, this isn't combat. It's annihilation. Commanders aboard nearby destroyers and carriers watch in disbelief as the Laffey is engulfed in explosions, her decks littered with debris, her silhouette barely visible through the haze. Aboard a Japanese carrier far to the north, officers monitor reports through radio intercepts. One remarks bitterly, "The turtle ship still floats?" They mock it, this small American destroyer refusing to die. But beneath the laughter is something else, disbelief. Every rule of naval warfare says the Laffy should already be at the bottom of the sea. Back on deck, pharmacist's mate First Class Jack Miller tends to the wounded amid the chaos. He crouches beside a sailor missing a leg, pressing a tourniquet while explosions shake the deck plates beneath them. The medics use their own shirts as bandages when supplies run out, and yet the guns keep firing. Each man aboard fights with mechanical focus. The 40mm Bofors crews rotate through shifts so the barrels don't overheat. They use shell casings as makeshift braces for damaged mounts. Even the cooks and mechanics grab rifles, joining the defense against incoming planes. At 9:02 a.m., another Kamikaze screams out of the clouds. This one's so low that its propeller tips skim the waves. The pilot is aiming directly for the ship's bridge. The gunners hit him at the last possible second, but the plane's bomb detonates as it crashes into the side of the hull. The explosion rips open the starboard bulkhead, sending shockwaves through the entire ship. The Laffy lurches violently. For a moment, it seems she'll capsize. Men grab onto anything, railings, ropes, gun mounts, as seawater floods the deck. Then, slowly, she steadies herself. Becton grips the railing, coughing from the smoke, eyes locked on the horizon. The deck beneath him is slick with oil and blood. "We're still here," he mutters. And he's right. Against all odds, the USS Laffy still floats, battered, bleeding, but defiant. But the attack isn't over. A new formation is inbound, bombers this time, escorted by fighters. The Japanese are desperate to finish the job, and the crew of the Laffy, exhausted and wounded, must now face the deadliest wave of all. At 10 a.m., the third wave comes screaming out of the clouds, 6 Japanese D-3A Val dive bombers and a Kai-43. Oscars break formation and fan out, circling like vultures over the burning ship below. The USS Laffy is a wreck, smoke pouring from 4 separate fires. The aft deck reduced to twisted steel, men scrambling over bodies to reach ammunition lockers. Yet from the sea level, she still looks alive. Her guns, blackened, scarred, and blistering hot, are still firing. The Japanese pilots can hardly believe it. From their cockpits, they can see the ship's deck scorched and mangled, yet tracer fire still climbs toward them like lightning. One pilot, Lieutenant Kiyoshi Ogawa, radios his squadron leader in disbelief. The American turtle ship still fires. To the men in the air, the Laffy is no longer a target. It's a symbol of American stubbornness, a steel beast that won't die, but orders are orders. Each pilot has sworn to crash his aircraft into the enemy rather than return home. At 9:12 a.m., 2 dive bombers drop from the clouds almost simultaneously, one from port, the other from starboard. The Bofors 40-minute crew on the forward gun mount reacts instantly. Gunner's mate Third Class Clarence Huntley, sweat and soot streaked. Across his face, locks onto the leftmost plane and fires in short bursts. The shells rip through the bomber's fuselage, and it explodes mid-dive, raining fire into the sea, but the second plane doesn't miss. It crashes into the main deck near the afterstack, detonating its bomb deep within the ship's superstructure. The blast rocks the entire vessel. Deck plates warp, communications fail, and for a brief moment, power flickers out completely. The ship is now half crippled, but she's still afloat. Below decks, Chief Engineer Harold Olson and his men fight to keep the turbines running. Steam hisses from ruptured pipes. Flames crawl along the bulkheads. When one of the main engines catches fire, Olson personally climbs through the smoke, using a wrench to close a leaking valve, his face burned by scalding vapor. "If we lose power, we're finished," he shouts to his men. Up top, Commander Becton wipes blood from his face and looks aft. The rear deck is a furnace, ammunition cooking off in small bursts. He knows if the fire reaches the torpedo tubes, the entire ship will go up. "Get it under control," he yells into the radio. "Whatever it takes." Sailors form a human chain, passing buckets of seawater when the hoses fail. Amid the chaos, one of them, Boatswain's Mate First Class Raymond Knight, stands exposed on deck, spraying a fire hose directly into the flames while shrapnel whizzes past him. His shirt burns away, his hands blister, but he doesn't move. The next bomb misses by inches. It strikes the water beside the ship, detonating close enough to lift the destroyer out of the sea. Men are thrown against bulkheads. The sonar dome is ripped apart, but miraculously, the hull holds. On the nearby destroyer, USS Haley, officers watch the scene through binoculars. One mutters, half in awe, half in horror, "They're tearing her apart, and she just won't die." At 9:25 a.m., the fourth and final Kamikaze wave descends, the deadliest yet. 4 planes, each carrying 500-pound bombs, dive almost vertically. One hits the port side, another crashes into the aft deckhouse. Fires engulf the remaining gun mounts, and then silence. The sky clears. The smoke thins. The Laffey drifts in the water, burning but afloat. Her guns fall silent for the first time in an hour. Of the 336 men aboard, 32 are dead, 71 wounded, and every section of the ship bears scars. Yet her flag still flies, her engines still hum. Her captain still stands on the bridge. When rescue ships arrive, hours later, the sailors of the Laffey refuse evacuation until every fire is out. One by one, the guns are reloaded. The American flag, tattered and half-burned, is hoisted higher. Over Japanese radio frequencies, a single message is intercepted from an enemy observer. We cannot understand. That ship still lives, and that's how the USS Laffey earned her immortal name, the ship that would not die. When the smoke finally cleared over Okinawa, what floated amid the oil-streaked waves looked less like a destroyer and more like a mangled ruin. Her deck was a jagged skeleton of twisted steel, her superstructure pocked with holes the size of cars. But beneath the wreckage, one thing remained untouched: the ship's heart. The USS Laffey, a la DD 724, had survived 22 separate attacks in just 80 minutes, more than any other Allied vessel in the Pacific. To the sailors who pulled alongside her that afternoon, it seemed impossible. Even the rescuers approached cautiously, expecting her to roll over at any moment. Yet there she was, still upright, still armed, her surviving crew standing at attention amid the devastation. Smoke curled from her masts, like ghosts of the men who'd fallen defending them. Commander Frederick Beckton, his uniform singed and his hands wrapped in bandages, refused to leave the bridge until the last fire below deck was extinguished. When a medical officer ordered him to be evacuated, he simply replied, "The skipper leaves when the ship leaves." That line, like the battle itself, became legend. In the days that followed, the Laffey limped back to port at Okinawa under her own power. Navy engineers couldn't believe what they saw. Her hull had been pierced in multiple places, her deck guns shattered, her radar and communications destroyed. By every rule of naval warfare, she should have been lost. Yet somehow, her crew, through grit, luck, and engineering brilliance, had kept her afloat. Rear Admiral Morton Deo, commander of the Naval Bombardment Group at Okinawa, radioed a single message to the battered destroyer as she made her slow approach. "Well done, Laffey. You have written your name in steel." News of the battle spread fast through the U.S. fleet. To the sailors stationed across the Pacific, the Laffey became a symbol, proof that even in the face of kamikaze fury, an American destroyer could take the beating of hell and keep fighting. Newspapers back home dubbed her the ship that would not die. Her photo appeared in Life and Time, her story retold in radio broadcasts across the country. To the Japanese, however, the Laffey became a grim warning. Surviving pilots and commanders, once proud of their kamikaze strategy, couldn't comprehend how the small turtle ship had endured what should have been total destruction. Intelligence reports later noted that Japanese officers referred to her as the ghost ship that fire could not sink. Back in the United States, the crew of the Laffey received 1 presidential unit citation, 6 Navy Crosses, and countless medals for valor. Beckton himself was promoted and awarded the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism. But when asked about the battle years later, he said quietly, "It wasn't heroism, it was duty." The boys fought because the ship was still alive, and as long as she was, so were we. That sense of unity, of man and machine fused through survival, became the legacy of the Laffey. After the war, the destroyer was repaired and returned to service during the Korean War, where she once again saw combat. In 1975, after decades of duty, she was decommissioned and turned into a museum ship. Today, she rests proudly at Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum in South Carolina, her hull still bearing the scars of that April morning. Visitors can still see the dents from the kamikazes, the melted gun barrels, and the bridge where Commander Beckton refused to leave. And every year, surviving crew members and their families gather there to remember what the world once called madness, and what they called courage. Because on April 16, 1945, in the skies above Okinawa, the Japanese discovered something they couldn't understand, a destroyer that simply refused to die. The USS Laffey was more than steel, rivets, and engines. She was the will of her crew, forged in fire, tested by war, and immortalized in history. She wasn't just a ship. She was a message. You can hit us. You can burn us. But you will not break us. That's how the Laffey earned her name, and why, even decades later, she still stands proud. The ship that would not die.